Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Aaron Beck. I'm the head of sales here at Q4. With me today, we have Ming and Kat from Spark 64, our good friends from Spark 64. So welcome, guys. Great to have you here. I guess, hey, thank you very much for making time. I know this time of year is pretty hectic and it's always a mad dash to get the last few things finished before we take off on the break. So same applies to all of our attendees. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your time and hopefully we can make the most of it today. All right, so let's get started. I'll just share a screen and we're away. Okay, so just as a quick agenda for today, so a session overview. I'm thinking time will probably fly, so it's a very quick session. So we're going to take a closer look at the technology. Ming will lead this. He's going to explain how it's used today, and it's a little bit about its potential. Also, why implement AI email prioritization? What are the business benefits? What are some of the problems that we're trying to solve? We've got some examples coming through. What they are, they're based on the hypothetical use case of a car rental company. And then again, just to touch on it, if you've got any questions, please just ask them as we go. Don't feel like you have to wait. All right, so I'll hand it over to you, Ming. Can you just launch into it, mate? Tell us a bit about the tech. How's it been used today and what is its potential for the future?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Hey, everyone. So I guess Aaron said I'm Ming, CTO at Spark 64. And yeah, really, today, I guess we're looking at how we can use AI in the process of, I guess, email triaging. So as a specific application of a specific field of AI. And I guess the type of AI we're looking at is natural language processing, which some of you may have heard of, and a lot of you probably associate with chatbots, virtual assistants, but it is a little bit bigger and I guess wider than that. So just, I guess, a bit of background on natural language processing. It's basically ability for machines to understand natural language, language that you and I you use to communicate. And traditionally, machines, when they communicate with other machines, it's all very structured, very defined, ways of messaging each other. But now when you have, the mess of human language being inputted into machines, it's struggles or traditionally has struggled, with very, very rules-based approach. We're looking for very specific structures. But that's changed a little bit recently with the developments of AI, especially with deep learning, a lot of kind of general natural language models that really, really enhance the ability for machines to be able to understand content written by humans. So, how this comes into the whole field of email triaging, which we're going to be talking about. Emails, are human language, written human language. And if we're able to understand them, we're going to be able to do a lot with it, which Aaron will kind of touch on a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Ming. Okay, if we go on to it, just a quick audio check. Is everyone able to hear? Ming, Kat, can you just confirm we're all good?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, awesome. All right, so if we just look at why would you introduce this technology and what benefits does it bring and what problems does it solve? There's quite a few benefits. I won't talk to all of these, but managing email overload, you can alleviate that burden of email on your service channels. So emails can build up, they're gathering dust and impacting SLAs and negatively impacting your customer experience. You may also have spikes throughout the day or at certain times of the day and the week, maybe overnight, for example, which means there's an increase in workload waiting first thing in the morning. So this technology, it's working 24/7 every day of the year. It helps to manage that demand and flatten out that busy period. You can immediately screen and automatically redirect all emails to an appropriate resolution or ends or onto the right destination. So it's aiming to eliminate the need to manually intervene or have manual human intervention. Can improve your response times by providing the correct information quickly to the client or on to internal teams quickly to do something with. There's the improved efficiency and productivity across the business by automating workflows. There's fewer errors. There's more consistent communications internally and externally. And I guess just to cover off, as to close this slide, is you can also measure your success through certain KPIs. So it could be first touch resolution, speed of response, the time it takes to resolution. Also, you can measure any customer churn, see if it's improving. And obviously, happy customers are more likely to recommend your service to others. So has business picked up and has it improved? So if we move on to this, I mean, this is looking at the flow of the technology with the customer communicating with your email service channels and then the technology dealing with it. Ming, could you take us through this and launch into some examples?
Yeah, sure. So I guess, yeah, here what we're looking at here is a little bit, I suppose, under the hood of how we could leverage some of this AI, some of this natural language processing to, automatically deal with the emails in the best way possible. So imagine this, imagine you have an email, I guess, come in, which I will actually show you live in a little bit. We can use a text classifier. Which has existed for a long time, but what I'm going to show you is one that we found works really well without a lot of data to start with, to figure out what is the customer actually asking, what's the intention of the email, and once you know that, that's where you can have a lot of powerful downstream automation tasks you can build in. So take an automation platform example like Zapier. Once you know the email, you can then choose, what you want to do next with the email. Do you want to assign it to someone, assign it to a specific group in your customer service team? Do you need to notify someone? Is it an email that's simple enough that you can reply to directly because, so many customers have asked that exact same question and, you can deal with it with a simple reply? Or even, I guess, even more powerful is then you can kick off a downstream process using RPA, which Aaron has mentioned. And yeah, I guess with an RPA, you can then go and have a form filled out automatically. You can have it kick off another kind of internal process, and that can happen with any system, whether it's a legacy system without an API, or even a system that does have an API. So yeah, I guess without further ado, I will kick into an actual demo of how this all works, and you can kind of see it working in action. Okay, so for this demo, I'm going to play the scenario of a customer emailing a car rental agency. So there's a number of things I could email as a customer. First of all, let's start off with a simple example. So let's go set up a demo account. Let's go demo. Let's say I can't log in, and I might go, hey, hi. I'd like to reset my password. Can you help me, please? So this could be a typical email that a customer might ask, but it's also an email that should actually be handled automatically, maybe if they looked at a website. So I'm going to fire this off. Now, we'll take a look afterwards what happens when the automated process picks this up and handles it. For now, while that's firing through, let's do a few more emails as a customer. So I might want to change my booking, for example. So again, I'm just going to go to send to inquiries. I'm going to go to demo. Let's see. Oops, let's say change booking. Hi. I'd like to change my booking to the, let's say, 24th of December. Can you please help? Cool. I fired that off. Oh, it looks like the bot's already replied to me with an automated email. So here you can see that it's picked up my question about not being on login, It's been able to classify the content as, me looking to reset my password, and it's giving me the answer straight away. So here's an example where, you could just give the response straight away without even having to assign it to someone on your team. But obviously, if that's not actually what the question was about, they have an opportunity to clarify. So I might just send one more email as well. Let's say I'm not so much of a happy customer. I've just had a terrible experience. Let's say demo. Seriously, hi. Just got off the phone with James, and his attitude was completely unacceptable. You can see it's actually suggested words for me as well while I was typing. Actually, that's a really nice example of NLP that's already out in the wild. Your Gmail, your email usually has some sort of autocomplete feature, which is driven by NLP. And actually, the Google search you do from a day-to-day basis, that's actually driven by quite clever NLP, which is doing more than just searching your keyword. It's actually trying to understand what your search query is, and then try to give you the exact answer, rather than just giving you the top page. So that's actually quite a nice example of NLP in the real world. So back to this demo. So yeah, I'm that unhappy customer. All I wanted to do was get my issue resolved. No thanks. Cool. So here's just another type of email that might get sent to a customer service center. So let that churn through a little bit, and let's head over to Freshdesk. So what's happening is, hopefully, can you still hear me? I think I just okay, cool. Got a little notification saying that my audio device changed. So let's head over to Freshdesk and see what's happened. Okay, so you can see that my email that's sent about changing the booking, that's been picked up by the triage system, and it's opened up a ticket. So two things here, it's put in the content, it's put in, it's a change, and it's actually assigned the priority and the group as well. Assigned it to medium priority, it's assigned it to the customer service team. And this can be anything that you want to configure yourselves. So in a bit, we might actually see the complaint as well being handled. So that will just take a little bit of time. Let's jump into this in the meantime. Okay, yeah, so you can see that it's got the content. And as the customer service agent, I can now, reply. I can, hi demo. I'll populate with the actual person's name, but that's the name of my the account that I created for demo purposes. And you can assign. You might pass it on to a different agent if it didn't assign it correctly. Let's go back to the ticket. Let's see if we've got our cool. All right, so it looks like the other ticket has now been created as well. The complaint that me as the angry customer has sent through. You can see here it's actually assigned that as urgent because it's dealing with this category of emails differently, and it's actually assigned it right in the customer service. It's actually assigned it to the escalation team. So you can see here, how we can use the power of NLP to first pick out, what the content of the email, and then, assign the right priority and assign it to the right group as well to handle it.
We have another question from the audience that I think ties in really nicely here. Your complaint example was a great example of two different things being triggered from one email, but what happens if there are multiple requests in a single email?
Perfect. Leads very nicely into what I was just also about to lead into, which Aaron just had on screen. So what if I just stop my sharing? Let's talk about more complicated examples, because obviously, the demos I've done there are very simple. Single request. Technically, you didn't even need AI for that. You could have just looked for the word, password. What happens if we do more complicated examples? Now, this is something that, again, we can use natural language process to help with. whether it is we respond to it automatically, or we even just help the customer with digesting this, because, in customer service, I've seen you get so many emails, you have to respond to them so quickly. You probably miss, and I don't know if everybody else has had this experience. You write in many questions in an email, 2 of them gets answered, or 1 of them gets answered, and it's as if they ignored your other questions. So how do we handle complexity? So in this example email here, we've got, we've got this email, we've got 2 questions hidden in there. One that is, what's in your, it's included in your standard rental insurance package, and the second one, which is, does the vehicle that I rent have a car seat, or do I need to bring my own? Now, we've been able to put through our NLP engine this whole email, and what it's been able to break it down into is the different components, which can then, classify each individual component, or even just breaking down into individual components for the customer service rep is already hugely beneficial in summarizing what is the question the customer asking. And what's really cool is when we put it through the AI, it didn't just, it didn't just kind of extract, it actually paraphrased. And it was actually able to pick out the whether the vehicle I rented, so forth, as a question, even though it doesn't have that, standard question mark format. So that was really cool to see. And if we do have time at the end, I'm happy to show that, but we'll see if there's any questions first, I suppose.
I think everyone will be pretty keen to see this working. So hopefully we can get it to play ball, and then let's start firing a few examples at it.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess just a quick question from me is, I think this technology, it goes a long way to helping to remove repetitive questions that agents have to answer all the time, or requests that recur all the time, like the invoice one. So with this question here, say there's one very simple answer that you can give immediately, but then something more complex. So I guess, does it have the capability of quickly dealing with the first one, firing off or maybe it's to fire off a notification or raise a ticket in the system, and then the next one has to be referred to a service agent. So I guess, does it have that intelligence to deal with each one on its own merit and then fire it off to where it needs to go?
Yeah, no, definitely. And that comes back to what we were talking a little bit about before around the, the confidence, the confidence scores. So, if you generally what you'd have is that you train it on a natural language library to pick out intent. So if it's something that, you've got an immediate answer for, it will tell you that, okay, it's matched this, that you can give an immediate answer for at this confidence that you can immediately reply to. And then for something else that, either it's not sure about, or it's sure about, it's sure about the intent, but it knows it's something that needs to be escalated because, it knows that a human needs to be able to handle this request, then it can do so. So yeah, it really comes to, when you start bringing your own data, start bringing in your, your own domain into this, that's when you can start, I guess, configuring it to handle questions as they come through the best way it can.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So if there is a chance for a human service rep to add some value, even to a near complete response that you can give, you can train it, you can manipulate the settings to behave a certain way.
Yep.
I have another question from the audience that's related to that. Do you need to bring your own data, or does it work out of the box?
Great question. So basic function. So one of the big advances, I guess, in natural language processing lately is more and more pre-trained models, general natural language models, which will be able to handle most tasks without you having to train it or bring your data in at all. So some of the examples I showed you, those ones actually were, let's see, I gave it about only 3 examples of what it should do. And then it was able to handle, stuff it's not seen before because it's a general natural language model. It's read the internet, it's read a lot of data, it knows associations of concepts. You're actually able to get started with this technology with 0 data almost. However, obviously, if you want to make it work really well for your domain, that's when you start bringing your own data. Requests are very specific to your industry. If you're, I don't know, if you're working in insurance, you might be looking at things like, people asking about premiums increasing or changing. Other industries might have a lot other domain specific things like telcos, people wanting to upgrade their plan, for example. That's when bringing your own data has value. You can do more than just that. You can actually, if you pick up a request, say for an invoice, you can then kick off another process in the back end. That process could be driven off an RPA bot, which will go in, to the systems and pull out the right invoice and send that straight to the customer. And that actually just cuts out the time that someone in the customer service team had to go and process that manually. So what I might do is I'll pass it back to Aaron to showcase how we might be able to kick off process in the back end and have that handle that request automatically.
All right, thanks Ming. I'll just share my screen back again. Okay, here we go. Yes, this is example 3 of it, and it's invoking an automated process using robotic process automation. So just before I start, an important thing to speak to is what kind of processes should you automate? And so recurring, time-consuming, manual, repeatable processes which follow the same steps each time are generally good candidates for automation. So this example you're about to see is going to simulate a customer requesting an invoice from the business, which is sitting on a legacy finance system. The finance system doesn't allow for easy integration or use of APIs, well, not without complexity and cost. So ordinarily, a service agent must manually perform this request to get the invoice that the customer wants. For this automated process, the NLP engine is going to determine the content of the incoming customer email as the invoice request, and it's then going to generate an email. So you see that on the screen now, and that's taking the original request and then just requesting specific information such as the request email, the client, and the month that they want the invoice on. So this is the trigger that the robot is waiting for to start work. I'm just going to start this demo now, but just as a disclaimer, we don't have any legacy finance systems at Q4 or at Spark 64. So the system you're going to see is Xero, which does have rich connectivity and integration options. But more the purpose of this video is just to show a manual process being automated. No audio. Is, hey, that was a very manual process with clicking and typing, etc. So ordinarily you wouldn't even see that process happening. It's all just happening in the background, but it's kind of, I mean, hopefully that video demonstrated it's a person, or it's emulating a person going through these steps. And I think also, just before I move on, just to talk it back to those confidence levels that Ming talked about. I mean, this automated process of asking for a specific invoice, the current month or any month, it won't be triggered unless there's a decent confidence threshold achieved, say greater than 90 or whatever the business deems suitable. Anything below that threshold will be kicked off to a service agent to look at. And again, over time, the smarts get smarter, the engine gets better, and the likelihood of greater confidence levels is improved. All right, well, that brings us to the end of the content for today. Thank you for all the questions so far. Are there any that have been held back for the end? And if so, please fire them across. I'll wait a second or two. Oh, well, you know what, if there are any further questions, please email them across to us. Our information's on the screen. Just to reconfirm, hey, we have recorded this. If you want to revisit it again, we'll be posting it on our respective websites and most likely back onto LinkedIn. But lastly, thanks very much to my co-hosts for coming today and presenting. Really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone that's come along today. Have a happy Christmas, and we'll see you guys in the new year.